Can I get rich and successful just by serving like a nutcase? Well, I guess you'll have to check inside.
Welcome to the show. Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Welcome to Your Ultimate Life, the podcast created for you. I do this because I love you. I do it because I believe and know from feedback that I am serving you. What in the world does serve mean? Well, there's a picture behind me. Someone's handing someone a box of, looks like olive oil and beautiful fruit and vegetables, and they all look vibrant and fresh. Boy, I'd love to receive that box. I'd also love to give that box. Service, you can define it a lot of ways, but typically it just means helping somebody. Help somebody do something, be something, find something, learn something, grow something, but to be of assistance. Now, I use the word love a lot on this podcast because I love you. And in order to have that make any sense, we've got to have a definition. So for us, I'm going to define love not as a feeling, but as an action, a choice, a movement, some behavior. And I define it as a choice to use my resources to serve someone. If I do that, I love them. I'll get more specific. I use the acronym SPEM, S-P-E-M, spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, and I divide life into those four categories. Arbitrary as heck, I know. And I know some people have the wheel of life with 12 or 15 different categories and, all the financial and relationship and romantic and wingily. That's too many, too complicated. I think it's far simpler than that. Just me. No harm to anyone else's models. But it's easy, much, much easier for me to think about those things in the simple way and to include different aspects. Spiritual is that yearning that we have, or the feeling we have, the energetic being in us. I call it the spirit, some call it the soul, whatever, right? Spock called it the Katra in Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan, I think, a long time ago. But it is the essence of the being, right? And it's a spirit. So our spirit came from somewhere. That energetic piece of us is not us. The body is not that. An amputee loses both legs. That spirit's still there, right? And so what is it? Well, we'll debate that later. But spiritual is the connection to the divine, the oneness, the conscious unified field. A friend of mine who wrote a book about creating miracles calls it, and maybe other people call it that too. That's the spirit. So spiritual resources, we have those. We have physical resources, our hands and arms and capability and strength and money, cash. Maybe we have 100 boxes of canned goods. Those are physical resources. Okay, so the physical resources includes stuff we can do with our bodies and even minds. Okay, and it includes stuff we have, including a cash or a stash of water. That might be really important if a drought came. Those are physical resources. Emotional resources are our relationships and the state of our soul inside, our emotions. So in my mind, in my model, emotional resources are our relationships. And that's as simple as it is because I use relationship to God, to myself, to you, to my wife, Joy, who is an angel, a delightful, beautiful angel who walks on water. So my relationship with her, I have 10 beautiful children. and I have different kinds of relationships with each of those. I have about 25 grandkids, give or take one that I birthed that I may not yet know about. I have relationships of various kinds with them. So those are my emotional resources. And M is our mental resources. What you've studied, what you've learned, your ability to reason, to think abstractly, and to connect things together that might be connected with physical resources to make money. But those groups, spiritual, physical, emotional resources, that's what I got. That's what you got. If I choose, or you choose to use them to help somebody, you love them. It's as simple as that. It need be no more complicated. Now, when we do that, that also brings those neurotransmitters that feel like something in us. We get warm and fuzzy physically and spiritually. I think there's two sets of neurotransmitters, the spiritual ones and the physical ones. Now, we got names for the physical ones: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, anandamide. Those are the goodies, right? And then we have cortisone and adrenaline, and other ones that are associated with stress and those kinds of things, fight or flight, all that stuff. So those are the physical neurotransmitters. There's a set of spiritual ones too. And we experience those often in our heart, we say. The physical ones might be in our thighs or our stomach or our chest. You know, they cause us to get tight or fight or flight or freeze or whatever it is, right? So I love you because I use my time, my mental, spiritual, emotional resources to create podcasts, to write books, to create videos, to write songs. I just had a performance a couple of nights ago. The next performance is going to be on April 22nd, 2026, and the one after that's going to be on May 20th, 2026. Just watch my Facebook page. I'm doing one every month for the rest of the year and maybe forever. I don't know. So if I love you, then I use my resources to serve you, to lift and bless you. Serve, like I said, means to help or to benefit or to bless, right? Now, there's good ways to do that and bad ways. We all know what tough love is, right? If you've got somebody that's got a serious problem and I continue to facilitate them and pretend that I'm serving them, that's not real service. I'm facilitating a negative thing, and real service would be to end that, to get them other kinds of help that they need. That might mean, if I have financial resources, putting them in a rehab or inviting them to go somewhere. And so that would be a different way to serve them. So let's talk today about service. And I gave that big definition of love because they're intertwined. You can make more money being of radical service than anything else. Love, create, serve are my three pillars of my life. I have added one behavior of love is listening. And we just did a show on listening and how you can turn that into a superpower. He who listens best wins all the time. Today, we're doing the third, serve. Love, listen, and serve could be another way to think about it, but I use the word create in there too, because you're a divine being and you're endowed with creative powers. But anyway, today's about service. Most people pretend they're serving when they're really not. They're trading. So I want you to think about this. Service has no strings attached. Service doesn't need to be rewarded. Service isn't give to get. So when I say I'm trading or you're trading, then that's like, well, I'll help you if, I'll give if, I'll show up if. I'm reminded of a scene in the A Christmas Carol, that Charles Dickens story. That's been made into a movie a whole bunch of times, but the one I'm thinking of is the one with George C. Scott, and he was in the presence of Christmas yet to come, and he was already dead, but he didn't know it yet. And the scene that he was watching with the ghost was at the exchange, where he'd been the day before making a deal for corn. And these men were, in big top hats, exchange people, obviously merchants and so forth. And one of them talked about going to a funeral. And, of course, Scrooge didn't know it was his. But one of them said, well, I'll go if lunch is provided. Okay, there's, a trade. It's not service. Service, real service, is just love. It is the choice to help because you love. Now, what is that doing in this episode? Well, let's talk about it. Because when you learn to love and create and serve, and that includes the listening part, because you can't listen, like we talked about last episode, unless you love. You can't do that. All right. So you don't want, I mean, you can do it any way you want. I'm giving you what I have learned and what I know about service and how it relates to your ultimate life. My goal with these episodes is to give you the keys to the kingdom, how to live a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. I'm not going to say this is the only way to do that. I'm not going to pretend that you can't do whatever you want, because of course you can. What I'm sharing with you is what I know. I'm 70 now as I record this. In my 70 years, I've learned a lot of things that work and a lot of things that don't. Love is the generative force. It creates wealth. It creates purpose. It creates joy. And so for me, ultimate life is to live a life every day where I love my life. I love every minute of it. I love every activity of it. Nothing bothers me. And so I live in purpose, prosperity, and joy. Now, my purpose is to reach 300 million people and to teach them about their WIPOS, WIPOS, worth, identity, possibility, ownership, and sovereignty. That's what I'm about. But I am completely knowledgeable that we all need cash. And the more good we want to do in the world, the more resources we need. And so this is about creating wealth also, creating wealth. My commitment, besides reaching 300 million people, is to create 3,000 millionaires. And I mean take-home pay, not top line. And 300 deca-millionaires, meaning 10 times that much, 10 million. That's what I'm doing. And I'm doing it with the tools and principles that I know. And they are powerful and they work. So today we're focused on the serve part and its necessary connection to love. Okay? Real service is clean, right? It is not martyrdom. It is not, oh, look at me. I'm here shoveling snow past midnight. If you are, it isn't look at me. It's just, you're there because you love, because it needs to be done. I'm reminded of something that I saw when I was a kid. I used to go in the summertime to my uncle's dairy farm in Wyoming. We lived in California at the time. And I don't remember what year it was. I might have been 11 or 12 or 10. I don't know, 10, 11, 12 sometime at the time. And the church that I belong to has a what's called a welfare farm. And in that area, the church has a large welfare program to help people when they get in trouble and need stuff. And so one way that happens in this rural area of a lot of farms is the church owned a bunch of property. And the work to cultivate the property, alfalfa and barley were the two principal crops, because most of the people in that area were dairy farmers, and alfalfa and barley is what you use. Not the only things, but anyway. So how they get the land worked is people will volunteer their time and their equipment, plant or to go, mow the hay when it's ready, alfalfa's ready, or bale it up or haul the bales or whatever to do that, right? And then they might sell the hay or sell the grain if nobody needs it, and then get an accumulation of money for taking care of welfare, people's needs. All right. So anyway, it was time to do the alfalfa, the hay baling. And alfalfa is kind of funny. I don't know if you know what it looks like, but it grows up to kind of tall, 16, 18 inches. And if it's much taller than that, then the leaves fall off. And so you have to mow it at a certain time, and mow it's just like mowing a lawn. You go through and mow it and then rake it up and then put it in bales. Anyway, so my grandfather was about 70, about my age, maybe 72 or something, a little older. And he was one of the men that went up during the day to work the field. And at this particular time, they were baling the hay up into those hay bales, And in those days, they had smaller bales that weighed 70 or 80 pounds, not those great big round ones you see now. But anyway, it got to be evening, and we were going to go up. My aunt and my mom and I were going to go up in a truck to where the church farm was and give some food to my grandfather because he was still out there working, baling the hay. And like I said, alfalfa is such that after you mow it, you have to bale it within a certain amount of time. Not too soon, because then it'll get moldy. Not too late, because then the leaves all fall off of the stalk. And of course, then it's not as nutritious for the cows. So knowing the right time, that's all the magic of that. So anyway, we got to that field, and I looked out in the field, and it was probably a 40-acre parcel, which was the kind of size, which is a 1/4 mile by a 1/4 mile. I looked out there, and there was nobody there. And I thought, what are we doing? And then I saw one set of lights out there in the field. And I thought, why is there nobody here? And I asked my mom, what is that? Like, where's Grandpa? Well, he's out there. I said, why is nobody here? And this story makes me emotional because here I'm seeing this 70-something-year-old dude, the only one in the whole field, finishing up the work. Right? That was service. He didn't wave a flag. He didn't call anyone's attention. He was going to finish the work because the hay needed to be baled now. So that touched me in ways that I've never forgotten all my life. I think of that story, and I thought I could tell it now without getting emotional, but I can't. That's service. No flags, no glory, just doing what needs to be done. Service is not martyrdom. Service is not self-sacrifice. It is not people-pleasing. None of that is service. Service is awareness of a need. It's intention, and it's done in love for contribution's sake. That's it. When we do that, then we're being of service. It's choosing to create value without needing some kind of an immediate recognition or reward. Now, there was a guy who wrote a book about service in the real estate industry, and he built a gigantic real estate business out serving everyone else. And when he went on this particular mission, others in that business said, "You'll go bankrupt. You can't do this. You'll fail." And they laughed at him, and he built a multi-billion-dollar service real estate business based purely on serving. Now that means, of course, transactional details had to happen. Properties got sold and commissions were made and there was money, but he built it based on outserving everyone else. Extra things and all the rest. And of course, people predicted the failure and it didn't. Service can be small acts. It can be unseen acts. It can be thoughtful acts. I was just interviewing someone else on podcast the other day, and he was telling me that he had someone who visited his wife, and he knew that they were fans of a particular sports team. So while they were gone out doing whatever they came to do, he went and got jerseys from that sports team and brought them to the house and gave them to them when they got back. No need, no recognition. He knew they liked that team. And so that was a service that he did. Now, what does that have to do with ultimate life? Well, the ultimate life is built on service, period. There's lots of quotes about that. One is attributed, I think, to Zig Ziglar, who said, "You can have anything you want if you help enough other people get what they want." You notice first is helping other people get what they want. What happens in your heart when someone does something genuinely, joyfully in service of you? Will you feel something? You feel first a desire for reciprocity. You want to pay or give back or help. Maybe that you can and maybe you can't, but you want to. So one of the things that happens with that is the whole pay it forward movement, right? Do something in advance. pay for a meal for the next person who's coming. Bridge tolls was a famous story. I'll pay for the bridge toll for somebody behind me. And they get up there and they go, well, okay, I'll pay for the one behind me, and so forth. And you never know where those things land. And those are fun little stories. But this is a much, 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 I know I said four muches, bigger principles. And it's a key to happy. It's a key to purpose, prosperity, and joy. And it turns into big, big cash. Why? Well, when you're in service of people, people trust you. People who serve without a need to be recognized or paid earn trust because we naturally feel, well, they're good. They're worthy. We can trust them when there's no ulterior motive. So let's talk about why people struggle with this. So we know what it is, we know what it isn't, and now let's talk about why we struggle with this, and then we'll talk about the benefits. We struggle with it because of the principle of scarcity. Scarcity is an attitude that the pie of life is only a certain size. There's only a certain amount of money in an industry. Maybe you sell coaching like I do. Maybe you sell books. Maybe you sell insurance. Maybe you work in a company and you don't have your own business, but you're an employee. It doesn't really matter what you do or where you are. There's two ways to think about it. There's a limited number of good stuff, a limited amount of good stuff. And if I don't go get mine, I got mine, I'm going to be short. That is the principle or idea that there isn't enough to go around. There's lots of reinforcing information. We got people starving all over the place. We got wars. We have cruelty. So there's lots of things around us that reinforce that idea. What do I get? That kind of feeling. Scarcity turns giving into calculation. Well, if I do this, then when am I going to get that? So I belong to one networking group, and the goal of that group, one of the big goals, is to serve, to go above and beyond all the time. And that can easily lead to, well, if I just keep doing that, I'm going to run out, or there won't be enough for me. That's not true. The universe will make more. The conscious unified field provides. There is an infinite amount of money, energy, and resource. But if my antenna is tuned to scarcity, there's not enough, I'll run out, there won't be, then guess what I create? There's not enough, I'll run out, nobody will take care of me. So there's another thing that people are afraid of, and that is fear of being used. Well, if I just help everybody, people are going to take advantage of me. That is not service. Service is not a doormat. Service is not giving everything you got and then standing there naked and afraid. That is not service. Okay, being abused is not service. That is not part of the definition. So here's how to think about that. One of the reasons, if you confuse boundaries, or maybe you've got, again, experiences in the past where that's true, where you have been taken advantage of and abused. That's just like the examples I gave of scarcity. We grew up there. Maybe you grew up or had adult experiences where you were abused, taken advantage of, treated unfairly. Those things happened, but it doesn't change the power of service and of also setting good, powerful, appropriate boundaries. I have a friend who described it this way. A cup sits in a saucer. So you have a cup and saucer, right? You cannot serve from an empty cup. So the trick is, the way he described it, was serve from the saucer, meaning when the cup is full, it overflows. And the saucer then gets full. Serve from the saucer. Well, in order for that to be true, you and we have to keep our cups full. Wow. One of the fears is, who's going to take care of me? I struggled with that. I thought, if I take care of everybody else, spouse, family, kids, friends, neighbor, if I just do that, I remember asking, who's going to take care of me? Who's doing that for me? Well, that's scarcity thinking. And as I have had more experience, I don't think that way. In fact, I don't think it at all. What I have learned is that the saucer fills itself. The divine, God, the energy, the conscious unified field, it fills it. I feel constantly full, one. And two, every day I get up, every single day, I have a daily creation process, which fills my saucer to overflowing. Literally. Now, here's an invitation. If you want to know how to do that, here's a book, Living with Purpose and Power. I wrote this book for you so you could have a full cup all the time, 100% of the days. Take a look at it. It involves acts of self-creation, acts of self-love, of self-filling. Caring for yourself is not selfishness, it is required. Because if you don't, your service lasts about that long. You get tired, you're worn out, you're out. Okay? So that book will help you, Living with Purpose and Power. Another fear or thing that keeps us away from service is the need for recognition. The need for recognition. So some people, through past experience, have learned or believe that they got to be, crowned, stamped, approved, called out. Yay, you're cool. Bragged on by others. They have to get recognition. That is a powerful driver, super powerful. In many, many surveys, when people look at, they survey employees about what motivates them at work, money isn't even first. Recognition often scores higher than money. Now, I'm assuming someone's not starving or at a wage that, makes barely surviving true. If that's true, then eating is going to be higher, money's going to be higher. But when basic needs are met, recognition ranks higher than money, which is why high salaries don't always keep the best employees at a company. That's shown in study after study. Recognition, creating something valuable, doing meaningful work, those all rank higher than money. So wanting acknowledgement or recognition or credit gives me the phrase, if you need to be seen, you're not really serving. Now that might sound harsh, but it's true. Impatience is another one, because what goes around comes around. That's always true. But we get impatient. I want it now. How come? It's taken too long. It's taken a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade. I know that story. I have things right now in my life where I'm still waiting, and it's been not quite 2 decades. And I refuse to be frustrated, negative, or disappointed, and I'm pouring out love with everything that I've got. I will not be impatient. But that took me a long time to learn too. Okay, so let's talk about, now we've talked about what it isn't. Let's talk about what service is and why it matters so much. So here's some examples. Noticing some need and just helping, just stopping where you can. Those are small things. Opening doors, carrying bags, stopping and helping somebody on the side of the road. I remember many times it's just kind of fun. Somebody's had some kind of difficulty with their car and they're pushing it. I stop my car on the side of the road and run to help push the car. Lots and lots of times. It's fun. It doesn't take very long. A few minutes, usually. Sometimes it turns to bigger than that. But that's real. I don't know them. They don't know me. I'm going to get in my car and gone, and end of story. That's fun, but it feels good, and it matters because you added good to the world. Acting without being asked. This is something I've had to learn. I grew up being selfish, focused on me. What do I get? What do I need? Now, why that happened doesn't matter. I grew up with a lot of discipline that today would be felony child abuse. And so I don't know, but out of that situation, I came really worried about me protecting myself. And so acting in service without being asked, just noticing and doing something was something I had to learn on purpose. I'm telling you that not because of yay me, who cares? But I'm telling you that because it's learnable. I didn't know how to do that. And it certainly sure as hell wasn't my inclination. But I learned to do it, and it has brought great fruit. and big rewards, both in purpose, prosperity, and joy. Doing thoughtful things, noticing stuff. You know, the best person I know breathing air on the earth that does that is my angel wife, Joy. She just is always, and just blows me away thinking about the dogs, the cats, the visitors, the people. Just that's how she lives, and she's a holy being. And she doesn't do it for recognition. She does it because she is a pure beacon of light, vessel of love, and a conduit of power. Okay, so those are examples of what real service can look like, and you've thought of 100 just while we've been talking about that. I'd like to mention now some expanded types of service, because service isn't just physical things. It's emotional service, support. You know, you might take time. I know people, so do you. Maybe you've done this a lot. Just take time to be with someone, to listen, not to judge, not to fix. Sometimes just acknowledging them and being with them, just sitting. Maybe there's conversation and maybe there's not. That is service. Now, is that going to make you money? Yes. Yes. And I'll tell you how that works. When you do that, you become someone different. When you take the time to love and sit with someone, you become more trustworthy, you become more believable, you become more effective in conversation and in whatever business you're doing. So yes, it makes you money. You can have practical kinds of service where you go help people. The welfare farm that I gave is an example where people in the church went and donated time and machinery to get the crops planted and harvested so they could support those in need. There can be strategic kind of help where you have already solved a problem or something similar. And so you know, I know what you could do there. And you give someone a suggestion or an idea. And that provides some kind of strategic help that they might need at that moment to solve a particular problem, whether it's a personal problem or a business problem or whatever. I do that with coaching, and I get paid sometimes, but coaching is simply being the place to help people find their own solutions. It's not about me doing stuff for them, but that strategic insight often comes from you or me having had an experience so that we can offer an idea, not to tell people what to do, because agency, the right to choose, is inviolable, but it is to offer a possibility. Like I'm doing today, this whole episode is a possibility for you, a possibility about how to think about service and to then take it into your life in rich abundance, to be of service. In coaching, sometimes the most powerful service that you can offer, that I offer, is just the energetic presence of being with someone and acknowledging you as a divine being with infinite gifts and talents. And when I talk about this with people, regularly the idea comes up, but money, but cash, but cash, but cash. And I can tell you over and over and repeatedly, that solves itself. People buy products and services from people that have that kind of energy. They hire me to coach them because of that feeling. They know they're going to be served and lifted and blessed. And again, this isn't about me. I'm just using these examples because they're things that I've learned, often the hard way and the slow way. Maybe I'm just slow, but they work. They work, they work, they work. All right, so trust is built. So this is a paradox, and this is what seems like a paradox. The more you serve, the more you receive. And that might sound like contradictory, like a paradox, but it's not. And this is how it works. First of all, there's the underlying principle of karma. Do unto others. That underlying principle, there's an energetic memory in the universe. I have no idea how it works, and I don't care. I just know that it does. So when you and I just give love freely, it comes back. Cast your bread on the waters and it shall return. There's all these sayings that we have from all different traditions all over the world that demonstrate or illustrate the truth of this principle. Here's something concrete you can know. Trust builds. When you live, or I do, but when you live with the idea of being of service all the time, regularly, that's just who you are. Not as a jacket you put on, not as something I'm going to do sometime. Okay, today's my day to go be of service. Be a drag, but I got to do it because I'm supposed to. Forget it. That doesn't put any energy out in the universe that's worth coming back to. If you do it because you love people and because that's who you've decided to be, even a little, and believe me, I had to do it a little, I had to learn, right? But it just comes back to you. Trust builds. Relationships deepen. Okay? Reputation grows like crazy. I'm in one group right now where, people just, the way they describe me is that. I don't have to say or do anything. And because they describe me that way, people come. They want to talk. And as a result of those conversations, often value is exchanged. They want to hire me to do this or to do that. Opportunities just show up. Ding! Why would that happen? Because that's who you are. That is a very attractive force for business, for opportunities, for growth. And I depend on that. And it works just like the sun shines in Phoenix. I lived in Phoenix for, 82 to 95, 13 years, and then 8 more years from 2008 to 16. So I've lived in Phoenix a long time, and believe me, the sun shines in Phoenix. But opportunities show up just like that when we live that way. Here's how wealth happens. Clients just come. Partnerships form because you have the energy of trust, the energy of love. If you build your life on over-serving, people know that. They want to do business with you because it's safe and it's positive. And if things are difficult, you're there on the front lines. And they know that because that's who you are. It's not a persona that you wear. Doors just open. And again, I have seen it and seen it to the tune of millions. Things that I can't explain. Service is not separate from wealth. It is the foundation of wealth. It is literally the stones on which it is built. I can't tell you how many business things have come just because of service. No other explanation. People never forget how you made them feel. They never forget how we treat them. They never forget if we're trustworthy. They never forget if we're kind, if we do more than expected, if we are abundant, and if we live in that energy of love. So let's talk in a practical way about some things that you can do, okay? Here is some immediate application so you can try this right now. Today, after you've listened to this, notice one person on purpose, like turn your radar up. Notice them, acknowledge them, compliment them, smile, lift. Just notice someone in a good way, of course, so they feel good. All right. Then do one thing for somebody. Go out of your way for a minute or 2 or 5 or 10. Visit a friend, make some calls, help somebody on the street, do something. And just notice how it feels and expect nothing. Just do it because it's true and it's good. Now, if your heart is open right now, you're feeling the resonance of what I'm telling you. And you've done it before. I know you have, or you wouldn't be the kind of person listening to this show. You've both seen it and done it. I am giving you this because I love you. I'm encouraging you in this way because I know how great you are. I know how capable you are. I know how powerful you are. You're a divine being. And the more we give and love from that place, the more power we get to create the life we want. You know that fundamentally creating life is what we do every day. So we either create a sucky life or we create a powerful and good life. It's up to us every time. So ask yourself, Who can I help? Like literally every morning I sit with my phone in my hand and I look through lists of contacts and people and I say, who do I need to help today? Who can I serve today? Who can I lift? How can I make someone's life easier? And I find people and little inspirations come. And it's just a habit every single day. Why? Because I want to give love and service. So that's what to ask. Who can I help? What can I do right now to make that life easier? How can I bless someone's heart? What is it that I can do right this minute? So make it a right now. You don't need to ask what you can get. You can start asking what you can give. And here's what happens. We know that we create our lives one thought at a time, literally one breath, one choice, one intention at a time. If you want power, choose to love, choose to listen, choose to create goodness with the gifts and talents that you have, and choose to serve. And then tell the truth of who you are just by how you're being and with your mouth. Build something that matters. And the result of that work will be wealth, impact, and personal meaning. And you will live your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your